It's Ash from Super Videos, back for another video related to both Fear the Walking Dead and The Walking Dead's original show. Before I start this video though, I do want to mention something real quick. If you want to know my thoughts about the recent events that have been taking place, read my latest tweet and watch the video that I posted before this. I don't want to go on a tangent and diverge into that conversation because at the end of the day, this is not a political channel. There's others who are more knowledgeable and explain this issue 100 times better than I can. And at the end of the day, this is an entertainment channel and I'm here to entertain. But I felt like it was the right thing to speak up. And if you disagree with me on anything that I stand for based on my tweet and based on my last video, and even if you want to stop watching because of my opinions and what I believe in, I totally get it. But please educate yourself on the matter. That's all I ask for. You can leave, you can unsubscribe, that's okay, but please educate yourself. That's all that matters. You educating yourself. Now with all of that talk out of the way, let's jump back into this video. In this video, we're gonna go through some theories about the possibilities that Madison will be our third crossover character. But unlike Dwight and Morgan, who crossed over from The Walking Dead to Fear the Walking Dead, Madison will cross over to the original show. Now before we run through these theories, I just want to put this out there. I think Madison is actually dead and she's not returning in either Fear or crossing over to The Walking Dead's original, or anywhere else for that matter. And even if she was alive, I highly doubt that they would have her cross over from Fear to the original show. But with that said, I will look at these theories and talk about them in an unbiased way, and I will keep the discussion about whether Madison is actually alive and returning out of all of my arguments. So the theory relates to the new story arc we will see in the original show, which is the Commonwealth story. For those of you that don't know and don't follow the comics and don't know what it's about, the person that Eugene, Princess Ezekiel, and Yumiko are trying to get to in the finale, which is going to air at some point this year, who was named Stephanie, is from the Commonwealth. Commonwealth is one of the biggest groups that our survivors have come across, and there's a large chunk of story dedicated to them and what they're all about, which we'll probably see more of in season 11. Another thing you need to know is that in the comics, there is a huge reunion between Michonne and her daughter in the comics at Commonwealth. And Michonne's daughter was actually not dead in the comics like she was in the show. Now, of course, in the show, Michonne is gone. So one theory that's popular is that Madison will be at Commonwealth and she reunite with someone from her family, which happens to be one of her survivors. For example, and this is not a legit theory, but just an example, when they get to Commonwealth, Madison is revealed to be there, and it's revealed that she's related to like Eugene or Princess or whatever. Now, there are two big issues I have with this theory. One is distance. Commonwealth, if it's where it was in the comics, is extremely distant from where Madison was when we last saw her. So if Madison survived, she probably would have found her family and friends over at Fear way before she would end up at Commonwealth. And if Commonwealth is close to her and they're changing the comics and changing the location of the Commonwealth, then it's extremely unlikely that first, Eugene would even be able to communicate with them, and two, for them to actually travel that distance to get to Commonwealth. The distance they already have to travel to get to Commonwealth is already significant, but that extra distance would just be way too much. And I think that it would be unrealistic if they end up doing something like that. And it would convolute the story and it would confuse fans who don't know about the comics. People who know about the comics may not necessarily be as confused, but people who don't know about the comics would definitely be confused if they end up doing something like that. The second reason that I don't think this makes sense is because it would be out of the blue and forced. Yes, it would be shocking, but it would be forced shocking, if that makes any sense. Now, if they built it up and set it up beforehand, then I would be cool with it. But since they didn't do that, and they haven't set up any reunion related to Madison in the original show, it would be super, super random. So as cool as that idea is for Madison to be at Commonwealth and be a part of the reunion story from the comics, it's just unrealistic and honestly random. Now, the other theory, which involves a little bit of spoilers from the comics, is that Madison will be at Commonwealth, but instead of getting the Commonwealth reunion story, she will replace Maggie. So like I said before, there is a small comic spoiler here, so if you don't want to know this, then skip like 2 minutes forward and you should be good. So in the comics, when they get to Commonwealth, a lot of stuff goes down. But ultimately, Maggie ends up becoming the quote-unquote president of the Commonwealth. And now, with Maggie returning in the finale, it seems as if they are following that story verbatim from the comics. Or they're gonna move towards that story, is a better way of saying it. Now, going back to Madison and the theory with Madison that I was talking about, the theory is that Madison will be at Commonwealth and that she is either Pamela Milton, the current leader of Commonwealth, or the TV version of it, or she will replace Maggie and she'll become the president or the leader later on, like Maggie did in the comics. Aside from the argument I had before about the distance and all of that, I don't like the idea of replacing comic characters, especially somewhat iconic comic characters, with characters from the show. I just don't think that it makes any sense. But if they do end up doing something like this, or end up going towards this direction, having Madison become the leader of Commonwealth, they would have to make significant changes to Madison's character and her story. So, with all of that said, at the end of the day, I think even the second theory is way off. Do I think a Fear character might cross over at some point into the original show? Yes, absolutely. That's a huge possibility. But I know for a fact that the character that will cross over will not be a main character from Fear, because Fear just can't afford to lose main characters. And also, whoever that character is who ends up crossing over will not be able to return back to Fear the Walking Dead when they leave. So it would be a one-way trip, much like Morgan and Dwight. That's basically everything I wanted to go through. But I want to know everyone's thoughts and opinions. Which of these theories do you agree with? And which do you not agree with? Leave all of your arguments and your thoughts and all of that in the comment section below. That's it for this video. See you next time for another super video.